welcome back to
the Zak
and Buzz
review. Yes, and this is certainly a major review.
This kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and I was massively surprised.
I mean, we're talking about Civil War, and we saw the trailers at the cinema.
Yeah,
we've been seeing, on the run up to it, and kind of like that looks interesting.
God bless America.
God bless it. You got to understand what's going on in the States at the moment. Obviously,
it's very much a product of its time.
We're in the UK, and I kind of feel this film was kind of pointed at the whole Donald Trump scenario.
It does feel very much like that.
Funny enough, I've spoken to a friend of mine, Pam, who lives in Texas, and
that's a good perspective.
She said in the past, about that out of all the states in America, that probably Texas and California are the ones that could support themselves as independent countries, and as we find in this movie, they have basically become a coalition called the Western Front, and there is this civil war. So it's the Western Front against the United States.
Because the thing is, it's the fact that the president of the US refuses to leave.
Well, right at the beginning, when you listen to him, he's talking as if the United States are literally about to win against the Western Front.
Yeah.
But as we find at the end of the movie, it's not at all like that's that kind of propaganda side of it.
Exactly, yeah.
Because it isn't. It's the other way around.
To be honest, that's actually probably one of the most prominent scenes he's in. You don't see him that much throughout the movie. He's just talked about as like the main focus. He is the MacGuffin of the movie.
Yeah, they want to get there, and they want to be the first reporters that don't get killed to interview him. What I want to do right off the bat now, because we've set the scene, is to say, wow. Just wow.
Damn.
This movie, we went to see it, and it blew me away. I mean, I came out of there and saying this is probably one of the best movies I've seen recently. It was fantastic.
So, to put it comparatively, of the movies we've gone to see recently, I went to go watch it because I thought, why not?
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of an action movie.
A bit of an action movie, a bit of a kind of serious one, as opposed to like other things we've seen recently.
Didn't quite know what we
it
were
wasn't
get.
exactly Kung Fu Panda 4, was it?
It wasn't Kung Fu Panda.
But yeah, what I really liked about it was the fact that I wasn't entirely sure to begin with, but then
it was a little slow burn at the beginning.
Yeah, but then it suddenly caught on, and the realism suddenly caught on as soon as they started their journey across kind of America.
The realism. I mean, I know a lot of preppers out there, and they're always going on about doomsday prepping and prepping this and prepping that. And of course, one of the things that comes up is, societal collapse.
Yeah.
And this depicts that because outside of the war zones where you've got the actual two forces fighting each other.
Exactly.
Basically, there is no law.
Yeah.
And that societal collapse has happened. But this isn't like watching any kind of action movie or any kind of post-apocalyptic movie. It literally felt like a documentary watching a real conflict. It really did bite deep. The realism of this movie was probably the most phenomenal and shocking part of it. Because it really felt
it showed
real.
You the brutality of humanity,
but not brutality in a kind of action-packed way.
No,
it was a real. You felt, because obviously we're talking about war reporters. We're talking about press who are taking photographs on the front, right on the front line.
Yeah, they will do anything for the shot.
And that was part of it. It's that adrenaline rush.
It's getting that drive.
I think the actress was it Kaylee Speeney? Is that how you say her name? Jessie.
That's the young,
the young girl.
The aspiring photographer.
Her character sums it up at one point where she says, I've never felt so scared, but at the same time, it was like such an adrenaline rush.
Because of course, throughout this entire movie, she is like.
Well, she's not.
Her idol is Kirsten Dunst's character, which is Lee.
Yeah, and she's not actually a reporter, is she?
No.
She's not officially working for any.
She just kind of
tags along with them.
She's kind of made friends with a couple of the people of the main characters, and has essentially gone into this as kind of that kind of child like.
Well, that's the bizarre thing, because in the
Character.
I don't know how old this actress is in reality. I'll have to Google that. But she's playing like a 23-year-old.
Yeah, that's it.
But I mean, the last movie I saw her in was Pacific Rim
Uprising. Yeah.
And she's like a little teenager, isn't
Yeah.
she? She still looks like a little teenager.
Well, that's the thing. She's like, I assume, the Ripley-esque character in the new Alien Romulus movie.
Oh wow! Well, in that case, I'm so impressed with her in this one. I will really now. That's kind of taking it up a notch.
That's going to hit in August.
For Alien Romulus, that's going to be great. But anyway, this movie, Civil War, the drama is gripping. The action is on another level. The sound, though, within the cinema, this is what we mean. Yeah, we did a top 5 of our favourite things to go to the cinema, and to hear the sound of the explosions, but it wasn't like watching something like, you know, a Hollywood blockbuster movie.
No, this was brutal. This was
brutal stuff, and the machine guns and the gunfire and everything.
The tanks.
Oh, I mean, that scene, you know, the one near the end where they're getting towards the White House, and again, I'm just going to cut in there and say, I've been to Washington DC. I've been in the Lincoln Memorial. I've been
so in a sense that made it more real for you.
I will say one downside of it, for viewers going to the cinema and watching this movie that aren't au fait with America, as in the topography of where everything is. Okay. They talk about they're going to go to this state and this state, and they're going to, and if you don't know, you kind of like just got to listen to it and go, yeah, all right, I believe you, because I don't know where you're going. Okay. You know, it's like being in the UK and saying, oh, we're going to go to Stevenage, and then we're going to go to Hartford, and we're going to go to London. We know what we're talking about. So you get a bit lost there, but because I've been to the capital, to see this really realistic effects of like the Lincoln Memorial being blown up. You know, it was like, wow, this is really shocking. But it wasn't just the drama, the action, the sound.
Had an amazing balance of all these things.
The soundscape on it was crazy. It had the hairs on the back of your neck going. And I loved the musical score, because it was kind of, they used upbeat kind of music at times, and then dropped straight into those. I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away. But then they dropped into the action. And then it suddenly went into dead silence.
Yeah.
And then came back out again, and then went dead silent.
From personal experience, to equate this to any other movie, I was actually very surprised. But in my head, I equated this a lot to Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I could see the resemblance.
Perhaps not in the kind of surrealism of that in places, but very much the journey that they go on. They've got a task they've got to set out on. And it's all about the journey as opposed to the end kind of thing.
But that was the thing. They went through that forest on fire.
Yeah, and that was very, very much
Stephen McKinley's character Sammy. It's real. I mean, we're not going to go.
You mean the Mentat?
We're not going to go. Yeah, from June. We're not going to go step by step through this movie. Honestly, you got to see it. But
do.
But you know, they had this really sort of sticky run-in with a couple of soldiers that had gone rogue. Yeah. And they managed to escape from that. And it was brutal. Yeah. And they get out, and then his character Sammy, who's literally saved them, he's just sort of like, he's driving down the road, and he says, somebody else is going to have to drive because I can't drive. And I actually thought that was a joke, because he said I can't drive, you know, because all the time he's been in the car, he's just been a passenger, hasn't he? Yeah. So I assumed that in rescuing them, he'd kind of gone, I haven't got any choice, I'm going to get behind the wheel. I'm going to learn how to drive. And he just said,
because they do make a thing about him being quite old, like towards the beginning of the movie.
And so when he says, I've got to stop because I can't drive, I actually audibly laughed. I sort of went, ha! He was like, I thought it was delivered as a joke,
as like a comic relief.
Yeah, after a serious horrible bit of action, that there was just a little bit of an uplift, and then within the moment you see the blood seeping out of him, and the reason he can't drive, it's been shot, and that was actually really quite. Yeah, because by this time you built up such a kind of connection to this character, and he was really the father figure of it, wasn't he? Yeah. And
because it's the idea that everything we are being shown is saying these guys should just turn back,
go
home. It's not worth your life.
But they can't do it because they've got such they want to be
drive.
They want to be the ones. They're literally dodging bullets, aren't they?
Yeah.
I love the way that the driver has got the photographer by their bulletproof jacket, and the reason they've got that is because the photographer is so busy photographing the action, literally got people being shot in front of them, that they can't see what's happening around. They're just seeing through the lens of the camera. So the driver's got to be there to literally yank them out the way.
Exactly.
You know, and that was quite a thing.
Yeah.
But they're so up front with all.
It was very much the dynamic between Jesse and Lee in this.
Yeah.
That kind of the characters kind of swap their mentalities. One goes from being very emotional in this situation to being very cold-hearted, whereas Lee, Kirsten Dunst, starts off being this cold-hearted person, and then it gets too much.
I wouldn't say cold-hearted. I'd say that you've got to just switch your emotions off in that situation.
Well, perhaps that's what I mean.
Yeah, I think that is what you mean. You just can't. You've got people being shot in front of you. And you are either being the photographer and the reporter on one side, because I think they basically start off on the United States force, don't they? And then they end up with the Western Front, because they're kind of press, they're neutral.
Yeah.
So you're bouncing, and so you're having zero political input, zero judgment on anybody. You're there to take photographs and to report, and that's it. And in doing that, it's
very visceral.
You've got to kind of remove your feelings.
Yeah.
And as you say, Kirsten Dunst's character is like that. Hard. She's hardened. She's famous for doing this.
Yeah.
And then you've got Jesse's character, who then she starts to mentor, and to the point where Jesse's character is taking because she gets very emotional at points.
Yes. Yes.
And you have that wonderful cinematic scene where they're by the lake. And
in the little gazebo type thing.
And they're in perfect focus. And I love this. Just the perfect focus. And you can see the water behind them, which is out of focus, rippling. And just the cinematography on that shot. I love that. And it's kind of that point, I think they sort of switch. Kirsten Dunst.
That's the tipping point.
That's the tipping point where because she's had to go through, obviously, losing Sammy.
Yeah.
And she's having to wash his blood out of the car.
Yeah, she's kind of had enough.
And she's had enough.
Obviously, she instigated the entire thing.
Yeah, whereas Jesse has now got the taste for it.
Got the taste, yeah.
And wants to get that shot. And that scene, when they start to move out finally to go to Washington, D.C., the helicopters, the Chinooks coming in, it's just absolutely crazy. And being on the big screen in the cinema was like blew us away.
Talking about probably my favourite moments, going on about helicopters, it's got to be when that Apache helicopter comes
just
in
outside
and starts blasting the hell out of this building.
You got their forces in the building.
It's pretty brutal when they're like shooting the machine guns and everything. But then this thing comes in and it's like
the minigun,
undiscriminate
that minigun.
Death. Everything is going to be completely annihilated.
And then in roll the tanks.
Because
you've got that last little sequence where you've got the gatehouse, and the guards are defending the gatehouse, and they can't get past them. Bring in a tank. But the sound.
And that is very much what we said afterwards, that we obviously watched this in the standard box standard cinema. We want to go see this possibly again in IMAX or potentially even 4DX.
4DX, yeah.
And especially now, it just feels like the perfect moment to do that. So I would wholeheartedly recommend this in the IMAX or 4DX experience.
I would say if you're not keen on the 4DX because of all the wiggly motion, go for the IMAX.
Definitely.
For the sound.
Definitely.
For the sound.
For the sound alone,
this movie blew me away. The action, you can watch action movies, and you can be watching action movies and kind of be big smile on your face and go, wow, look at that, wow. This one, you're not going, wow, you're going, jaw has hit the floor.
Oh
dear. This is serious. It's brilliant. I can't say more than that. This is just a wow.
So on the scale, 1 to 10, 10 being like super duper epic,
you're taking
extravaganza movie of awesomeness, and then number 1 being that's basically a walk in a field.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you reckon?
For me, I will be watching it again.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to give this one a solid 8.5.
Interesting.
I got to save the 9s and the 10s for those real special
Now,
movies.
okay. Now, from my perspective, when I rate films, I wouldn't say that scoring it a 9 or a 10 would be like reserved exclusively for my favourite films ever.
Right.
I would say I'd have those being like, they'd be in there in the mix, or possibly even beyond that. But I would put films that I genuinely thought were really, really, really good.
Okay, what's your score?
I'm gonna say a 10.
You're going to give this?
I'm gonna give it a 10.
Okay,
Because I really, really enjoyed it.
I'm sticking with my 8.5, but I do agree with your 10.
Okay.
Okay, but I reserve my 10s on my own scale for those real magic movies.
Exactly. So, what you can take from this video is the fact that you should go and watch Civil
War.
This
up
is
there.
so good. You'd be missing out if you don't see it at the cinema.
All the main characters, Christian Dunst, Wagner Moore, I think the name is, Kylie Spiney, and Stephen McKinley.
All do a phenomenal job.
For all 4 of them as the main characters.
There's not really anything other than, like, obviously the situation that you don't like to watch, but it's really good to watch. It's like the perfect movie.
And I will say finally that the movie actually has an ending.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes these kind of movies can get so far and then it kind of cuts off.
Yeah.
But this one goes right to the end.
The precipice, the edge.
The end. And hang around for the credits because there's some really good black and white shots that come up in the credits. Well worth seeing. You know, so don't be one of these people that drops their popcorn and runs for it, alright? Anyway, there you go. Civil War. Go see it.
Brilliant. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of further reviews you'd like to see. We've got plenty more on the way,
Yeah,
so
loads of
stay
movies coming
tuned.
out. See you in the next one.